The Northern Governors Forum says various solutions are being explored to tackle the spate of insecurity, especially mass abductions in the north. Briefing the media at the end of a meeting with the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and service chiefs in Abuja, the chairman of the forum and governor of Gombe State, Mahamadou Yahaya, says there is a need for new tactics to be developed in tackling the nation's security challenges. According to him, this will include kinetic and non-kinetic measures. The meeting comes against the backdrop of the recent mass abduction of students and other people in different parts of the region by terrorists and bandits.
The essence of the meeting, as you can see, is between the governors and the service chiefs and the National Security Advisor. So it relates to security. And you know, security is very topical, especially with the recent issues of kidnapping in the northwest, and we are becoming so concerned that we need to discuss, review, and possibly take alternative options to what we have been doing before, so that we can have a better result. And already the service chiefs and all other security agencies have been doing their best trying to cover up. So what we need to do is to change style, especially adding with a non-kinetic approach, so that at the end of it, when we join the two, we'll have a better security situation in the country.
Reacting to the surge in kidnappings across Nigeria, the First Lady, Senator Oluwemi Tinubu, has called for stiffer penalties for kidnappers in the country. During a visit to the presidential villa by senators representing the 3 senatorial districts of Lagos State, Tinubu urged lawmakers to enact legislation to combat the rising threat of kidnapping, likening it to a war. Last week, she called for the capital punishment for kidnappers. Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, who led the delegation, assured Nigerians of ongoing efforts in the Senate to prioritize legislation aimed at enhancing the economy and bolstering security.
I think we can make stiffer laws. We have to really, it's like we're at war. Yeah. That's what it is, because, there are various things that, would lead to something. We're at war with all these people coming to pick our children. Yeah. So I want to see the National Assembly taking a more robust stand that, this has to be, capital punishment should be in place. And I'm not mixing words with that, because people who will take your children is like taking your heart. So for a mother, and, why are you taking the children? To me, it's something that we have to look into, and also look into how we can help our people to ameliorate these times. But there are better days ahead. But my advice is, I don't want people to get used to handouts.
Yes. It's something that we should consider, because you see, these are people taking people, it's like taking a heart. It's like taking a part of your body from you. So I don't think no matter how stiff that penalty is, I don't think it's too much or too harsh. So it's something to consider. You understand? But beyond that, there are other things we need to do, either in terms of how we also help those who manage our security architecture. What do we do in terms of budgeting, in terms of also trying to, our oversighting of what they do, so that we can be assured that they're actually moving in the direction that we expect them to move, just like the president is moving.
All right. Security on the front burner, as it should be. Rufai.
Yeah, security on the front burner, meetings here and there. Very good meetings, so that these people can probably talk about what is happening. But the question is, what's the way out of this? I don't know as we speak. The bandits or the criminals have asked for $1 billion, about $620,000. The government said they are not paying ransom. The Defense HQ is saying now that they're not getting enough intel to be able to go in there, that these people are using the people they kidnap as human shields. So what are we going to do? Because I'm not given to all these meetings. We can have meetings from now till thy kingdom come. If I don't see actions and outcome, then nothing, I repeat, nothing is up to those meetings. What are we going to do? What's going to be the manner of approach? Are we going to negotiate, like Sheikh Gumi was saying yesterday? Or we're going to go in there and look at the possibility of collateral damage? Because we're in a flux, and the bandits are given a 20-day notice, and I don't want a case where we're going to be seeing pictures on TV of how they have started to kill these people, because that will be sad. So we'd like to call on the security authorities. It's not just a time for meeting. What is the action plan to be able to get in there and bring those people out? And I hope the Defense HQ is not getting the intel it needs, because that is very scary for me. If the Defense HQ was saying in the press conference that they're not getting the much needed intel to be able to go in there. So I'm asking, what is happening? We can't keep playing, games with the lives of people in this country. The only offense these people have committed is that they are Nigerians. Yes, I saw the concerns by some senators in Lagos going to meet the First Lady. She too was a senator before. I understand the crowd. It's all good optic talk. But the question is that going to provide a lasting solution to the problem? Because the solution needs to be multi-pronged. Number one, there has to be economic solution. The reason why we've had this is because of economic deprivation over the years. I know you're going to make the argument and say, what about other regions that they've had economic deprivation equally? Why has this not happened? Economic deprivation coupled with a feudalist system that is now seeing a level of revolt now. That's what we're seeing. When we had the Metiseni riots in the 80s, there was a panel of inquiry set up to look at the remote causes of that. And they also talked about economic deprivation. This was 40 years ago. Now it has festered, the proliferation of almagery and cultural systems too. That's number one. Number two, then how are we going to cut the links? The financial support, the financial link to this bandit. The other time they said some people were caught in Dubai and they said they had bank accounts. What has NFRU done as regards that? How are we going to cut those links, those ties? Thirdly, how are we going to stop the new recruitment? Because a lot of new recruitment is going on. And why people are easy target for those new recruitment is the fact that you have a big economic malaise happening in those areas. Hence the pain I feel in my heart when some lawmakers still have the nerve to be able to inflate budgets because of their own selfish gains. So this approach, then you have to have some element of force. But the question is, do we even have enough boots on the ground? The size of the military as we speak today, overstretched. I'm not sure we have up to 300,000-400,000 standing troops for large swaths of land, where you have thousands and thousands of multifaceted fighting units by these bandits. So what are we going to do as regards this? Because the time is ticking and it's ticking fast. And it's not about meetings. We've had these meetings from time immemorial. When are we going to have solutions to the problem? Mr. President, you have to surprise us and provide those answers.
Nothing new, nothing has changed. The French have a cliché saying that plus ça change, c'est la même chose. We've seen these processes before under the last administration. The president gives a marching order. The security chiefs meet with the governors. They make promises, exactly the same things. What has triggered this time around? In Kuriga, in Chinkun local government area of Kaduna State, 287 persons, 26 pupils and a staff were abducted in broad daylight. And now those ones who kidnapped them now have the temerity to ask for 1 billion naira. Shortly after, 15 Quranic school students were abducted in Sokoto State. After that, 112 internally displaced persons who were going to fetch firewood were abducted in Gamborungala in Sokoto State. Against this background, the president met with the security chiefs and read the Riot Act with the proviso also that nobody should use government money to pay ransom. And now the NSA has called a meeting where we were told the agenda was not disclosed, but the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum came out to say, well, they were looking for kinetic and non-kinetic ways of solving the challenge of insecurity in the north. And the states that were represented, the affected states, Kaduna, Zamfara, Sokoto, Borno, Nasarawa, Niger perhaps also. So a major issue of concern. But the issue is what follows after. Are we just going to have meetings, held after the president read the Riot Act, and then we wait until the fire the next time? That is where the challenge is. However, against the background of that national security meeting called by the NSA, we were told that the head of the Commandant General of the Civil Defense is saying also that civil defense will be more actively involved and will do everything possible to get the abducted children in Kuriga released. Secondly, the spokesperson for the defense headquarters, Major General Edward Buba, had a press briefing saying that they are getting information from international partners. He did not identify who those international partners are. And you recall that in a previous briefing by the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, he had said Nigeria is considering, seeking help from some international partners. Those international partners are not identified. But I think that, look, if it means outsourcing the rescue operation with the Americans or whoever, I think Nigeria should go ahead and do that. Because in any case, terrorism is of international concern. That's the level where it is. It's not as if it's a domestic problem. And if any country is offering us help, we should take it. I do not recommend Russia, though, in case we're looking for any help. Any offer of help is coming from Russia. I don't recommend Russia for obvious reasons. Then, of course, the ransom that they're asking for, 1 billion naira. This should tell us something. The people who are talking about kinetic and not kinetic, they are the people who are behind this kidnapping. They are not your ordinary people who are looking for money to buy bread and bean cake. They are people who are running an ecosystem, an economy, an underground economy that they have, that they consider, a thriving economy. The other day it was 40 trillion that the terrorists asked for. Now they are asking for 1 billion. When you convert it, $620,000. Apparently to them, $620,000 is no money. But the president has said nobody is going to pay. I guess the president himself probably realizes that these people are just doing business at the expense of the right of persons to dignity and the right to life. And the only way to do this is to go after them and bring results. Which then takes me to Senator Oluremi Tinubu's statement that stiffer penalties, should be meted out to these terrorists and bandits. And I agree with her, absolutely. One major departure from the previous administration is that the Tinubu administration has not at any time talked about serving jollof rice and pepper soup to people, to kidnappers and bandits and terrorists, and using state funds to buy a uniform for them and keeping them in a prison where they will conveniently break the jail and escape. I like the resolve of the administration, further underlined by Senator Oluremi Tinubu, that we need to come up with stiffer penalties, with legislation, to make sure that if you do the crime, you do the time. And that will mean that the outcome of all these national security meetings should be a special focus on the perpetrators of this criminality. And we've been told before and again by security experts that the people who are the sponsors are known, that they are members of communities, and that in some communities they know them. In fact, they even lionize them in some communities. Now, if such intelligence is in the open space, the security agencies, least of all the defense headquarters, cannot be complaining about a lack of intelligence. What is important, as a follow-up to Senator Oluremi Tinubu's charge to the senators from Lagos State who went to visit her, is political will. The Nigerian government, under President Tinubu's watch, must find the political will that has been lacking to declare war against everyone who violates the dignity of the human person and who turns Nigeria into a zone for criminal enterprise, for trade, trafficking, criminality in human beings, abducting people, kidnapping them, and having the temerity to ask for 40 trillion, to ask for 1 billion, as if we are back to the era of slave trade. Political will is very important, and that political will should go beyond the President Reading Riot Act and security chiefs holding meetings saying we are looking at kinetic and non-kinetic. The same governors who are talking about kinetic and non-kinetic, if any incident happens tomorrow, they will wring their hands in utter helplessness. And I conclude by saying that those countries that have offered help, if the need comes for us to outsource the challenge of beating the threat of insecurity, the Nigerian government should not for a moment hesitate to do so.
All right. Well, talking about it being a lucrative business, I think that's something that we must center on as well. Because with the announcement of the amount of money being asked for in terms of ransom, it's not far-fetched to see that this has become a business empire for unsavory members of society. And so if you must slay a dragon, you have to cut off its head. And so that's why for a number of years, the call has been, pick who are the people behind these bandits. Who are the people funding them? Because what the security agents have complained about in the past or have observed is the sophistication of their weapons. It means that it's not small money we're talking about. Of course, there are proceeds from the ransom that have been paid in the past. But also, there are people who are benefiting from this. There are people who are providing an environment for these acts to continue. And so if the security agents are serious about tackling this menace, then they must also be serious about cutting off the head and going to the very source, irrespective of whose oil is God. It is important. Because at the end of the day, we keep talking about these things, we deal with the surface levels, but we don't deal with the root, the people who are behind it. And this is a big call to security agencies to not just go after these men who are in the bushes or talk about force here and intelligence from foreign partners, but also local intelligence. There are many information that has come out as to the possible or possibilities of the people who are behind this. What has happened with that information? So when we talk about a lack of intelligence, what has happened with the information that was gotten prior? It goes back to the conversation yesterday where we talked about a trust deficit, especially between the Nigerian people and the security agents. Because in some instances, when you offer information, you then become the villain, or then you're targeted. And so we know that there are informants, there are moles within the security architecture who are enabling this. Who are these people? If we don't find them out, if we don't handle it, then we will continue to get back, rescue the children, rescue the kidnapped victims, but then there'll be even more, and it will even be more brazen. Beyond that, yesterday's meeting revealed what has already been obvious in terms of the limitations of our security agencies. They talked about lack of intelligence. They talked about an inadequate, ill-equipped, and of course, ill-equipped agents compounded by a lack of morale. We've heard this a number of times. The fact that we do not have enough agents, the fact that we do not have, that their welfare is questionable, and the fact that they are not a match for the enemy when it comes to weapons. In fact, the SCT minister, Nyesom Wike, when he met with some press people yesterday, when he had the press conference yesterday, had mentioned that they didn't even have trackers. And then when they wanted to procure, they were met with a stonewall until the president gave the approval for them to have trackers. They're talking now in 2024 about getting CCTV in an area that has been plagued with criminality again and again. These are the issues. And then you wonder that the amount of money being allocated to security, what is the money used for? And then we'll talk about spending millions of naira to install a street light when we don't have CCTV, we don't have trackers for our security agents. You tend to almost feel sorry for them because they are working with almost next to nothing. They do not have the equipment. They are not equipped enough to go out there and do what they've been trained to do. And the only problem is that when these issues happen, then they become the blame target, when indeed we should look at our government as to what they're providing for them to arm them. Beyond that, I'd say that lack of paying a ransom, great statement from the president. Because he's speaking tough and saying that he wants to end the criminality, the business of criminality, by choking them or removing the source of their funding. However, beyond that, what we don't want is collateral damage. The president, side by side, had said that all these students, all these young people who have been kidnapped will be rescued alive. That's what we want to see. Like the First Lady mentioned, it's attacking the heart of the people. When you look at children, when you take children and kidnap children, it's also attacking the future. It's also a big attack on the education and education aspirations of young people, especially in the north. So we have a big issue on our hands. And when we talk about non-kinetic efforts, I totally agree with that. But whilst we're talking about non-kinetic, let's not just pay lip service to this. If we're looking at that, we're going to have to tackle poverty and deprivation in that area to make it less attractive to recruit new agents, for the kidnappers. So we have to sort out the economic situation in the north. We have to ensure that we provide some kind of intervention, social interventions in those areas. And then there must be active engagement with religious leaders, with traditional leaders, and with the people. Because Boko Haram is a direct attack against education. They do not want your children to go to school so that they will continue to keep them in that level and that state of under information or non-information, and they can continue the cycle of slavery and oppression in that area. So we must raise people who are able to champion that cause, that everybody must work hand in hand to fight insecurity in Nigeria. We must have informants. We must make it less attractive to recruiting people and of course, facing the other things in terms of going straight in. And then the final thing I'd like to say, which is a question that's come up a number of times, is when 200 children were taken from over 200 students and teachers, which way did they go? How did they make their way out? Then you understand that there must be some complicity between some of the either locals or security agents in that area. How can you make away with over 200 people, human beings, and then no one was able to stop you on your way there? These are questions that people are asking that doesn't seem to make sense when we have these meetings that occur. Our prayer is that by tomorrow morning or even before the end of today, we'll hear news that our children, the people who have been kidnapped, are back. And more than that, we're able to eliminate such incidents from happening again in Nigeria. Well, other news making the rounds at this hour. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, yesterday reiterated its determination to end the decades-long importation of petrol and other fuels into the country in 2024, as the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Mele Kyari, assured Nigerians that the Port Harcourt refinery would come on stream within the next 2 weeks, while the Kaduna refinery would start producing by December this year. Telcos and submarine operators have confirmed a major cut on subsea cable in Red Sea yesterday, which resulted in service disruptions in Nigeria and some African countries, including Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Liberia, as well as some parts of South Africa. The Olubadan of Ibadan land, His Imperial Majesty Oba Moshood Lekan Balogun Ali Okumade II, has died at the age of 81. On the foreign scene, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer calls for Israel to hold elections to replace Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. At least 20 Palestinians have been killed and more than 150 injured in northern Gaza City after a crowd of people waiting for humanitarian assistance were attacked. Israeli military denies involvement. People across Russia and the annexed regions of Ukraine have begun 3 days of voting to decide the country's next president.